Howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time to talk Path of Exile. Today, the news of the Synthesis Flashback event was released, and I'm making two versions of this video. The first one, which was recorded separately, was aimed at new and intermediate players, defined as players that still feel intimidated at the thought of either beating a tier 16 map or reaching level 90. This is the version that's aimed at more experienced players. So if you're the sort of person that's got, 3 or 4 level 90 or higher characters across multiple leagues, you eat tier 16 maps for breakfast, then this is the version of the video that's for you. As always, a flashback league means a fresh economy, and this event goes live in week 2 of May, so second weekend of May. Fresh economy is always a lot of fun, means that obviously the items that you loot are worth more early on. Lots more potential to try to be the first to get something amazing, to try and corner a market if you're into playing Path of Economy, or if you aren't really in that mode. It's just much more realistic to find rare items early on, get the feeling of frequent upgrades. I think we all know that once you hit about level 85, upgrades are few and far between in Path of Exile. And you might only upgrade each piece of equipment, like from level 85, you might only ever upgrade each piece of equipment twice more. You'll get all of that massive power rush that you get early on as a result of the fresh economy, when you go from your character being terrible to being mediocre to being solid to being strong, then to starting to feel amazing. Of course, as always, is a chance to play new builds. Either go with something that's a powerhouse build that you haven't tried yet, or go with something zany and see if you can make it work. The other thing is that a flashback event has utter chaos, huge extra monster density, which means that leveling, there'll be a lot more danger. You'll be fighting in the pits in Duresso's Dream in Act 4. And then boom, suddenly Tezatosh, the Hungering Flame, has spawned inside your little arena that you're locked in. And you've now got to deal with the Beyond boss that's throwing massive flame blasts at you and showering you with summon Raging Spirits, whilst the trash monsters are still attacking you as well. And oh god, did you get an anti-bleed flask for those trash? So yeah, there's going to be utter chaos. There's going to be deaths left, right, and center from combinations of mechanics that people were not expecting and that never really came up in normal gameplay in any of the standard leagues. For instance, you'll find encounters where you have Bummoth being the Beyond boss that casts Vile Detonate Dead. You'll have him detonating the corpses of Rogue Exiles. Rogue Exiles have a lot of hit points. This is a messy situation. Or you'll have him detonate the corpse of an invasion boss. You'll have all sorts of other weird and wonderful things like that. You'll get to experience things like a breach that has Beyond on it. All sorts of things like that don't come up very often. The other thing that looks interesting is that they've changed slightly from the core game what the Nemesis and Bloodlines do. So Nemesis is now 3 additional rare monster packs with Nemesis mods. So there'll be a whole bunch of rare monsters together. They'll have Nemesis mods. This can be a dangerous combination. Additionally, there is Kadiro is going to be a lot easier to spawn. I know everyone is complaining about that stupid 5,000 turn in 5,000 Parandus coins to Kadiro challenge. It's an absolute pain in the ass to do that, and it's going to be a mongrel. But a couple of the things that I think are worth thinking about that haven't been mentioned very much. Firstly, Invasion. Invasion adds an extra boss onto the map and a pack of defenders guarding them. One of the things that's really interesting with Invasion is that, and this wasn't a case the last time Invasion was available as widely as this. The last time that this came up was when the Incursion League was new. Incursion, I think it was Incursion, maybe it was Bestiary. In any case, it was before Delve. Delve introduced a divination card. In fact, the one that I'm responsible for, which is the Price of Protection. And I'm just going to bring that one up and just show you the card if you're not familiar with it. It's a set of 5 for a deliberately bad type of map, but it's a tier 16, Elder Chateau. Now, Chateau is a pretty mediocre layout, but this drops with quite a high drop rate from invasion bosses. What this is going to mean in practice is that while you're leveling, assuming that there's no minimum level for this card to drop, you may well end up reaching the end of the 10 acts with 2 sets of this ready to go. Then you quickly run a few maps, and you may well wind up in a situation where if you're let's say that you run Beach early on, tier 4 Beach, and tier 4 Beach has Invasion plus 2 other juicy mods. So you're running it because it's got Harbingers and Invasion bosses and Strongboxes, say. Or a Breach or something like that, just generally things that are among the more powerful mods, but you've got Invasion as well. When you're doing this, if you run, you can easily run 15 Beaches in an hour, and, as your character gets more powerful, you can probably get that up to 25. You may very well be killing 50 Invasion bosses an hour with this mod. Even if they're only 10% to drop the Price of Protection, that's giving you an extra tier 16 map every hour. And you're getting this from running tier 4s, which is what Beach is. However, I believe that the drop rate for Price of Protection is considerably higher than 1 in 10 invasion bosses. I think it's more like 1 in 3, 1 in 4. And so that means that the entire game economy, the entire league economy, will be flooded with tier 16 Chateau maps. The other thing is that you also are going to have a lot of access to Harbingers. Harbingers drop shards, Horizon shards, and when you get yourself an Horizon Orb by compiling 20 Horizon shards, you can then use that to turn the Elder Chateau map. Chateau is a tier 10 map by default. It can then be turned into an Elder version of any other tier 10 map via using Horizon Orbs. So one possible outcome, for example, of using the Horizon Orb on an Elder Chateau in the current Atlas setup is that you get an Elder Scriptorium, Scriptorium being another tier 10 map. Or alternately, you might get an Elder Moon Temple. In any case, this is going to be a really significant, have a really significant effect on the entire league, because the additional tier 16s are going to mean that there is going to be absolutely no issue with map sustain in this league. Now, the other thing that's going to mean is that you can then be extremely wasteful with tier 16s. This is the situation that I'm at in the Synthesis League at the moment. If I get if I'm wanting to run Uber Elder and I need to kill the 4 Shaper Guardians for that, if I'm feeling lazy, I just have no qualms about sticking a Lair of the Hydra map into the map device as is, as a plain white map. Because I'm confident that between the synthesis mechanics of the memory nexus and the like, and the delve mines, that I will be flooded with more Guardian maps that I end up being unable to sell. This is going to add to that again, even further. We've got Harbingers, which is going to mean that you're going to have more access to Harbinger Orbs than you've got in the Synthesis League. You're also going to have more access as a result to the Beachhead unique map. All of this is going to mean that you are going to have a huge amount, very quickly, of tier 16 maps. I think this is going to change your Atlas strategy considerably. If you're playing a character that gets powerful quickly, so let's say that you're playing a popular build like Solren Trickster that doesn't rely an enormous amount on gear, you may very well be in a situation where you reach the, say, tier 4 maps, tier 5 maps, and then you can immediately go and run an Elder Chateau, which then will unlock Chateau on your Atlas, and will also be able, while you're running the Elder Chateau map, you won't be able to get tier 16 drops because you've got no tier 16s on your Atlas and there's no tier 16s adjacent to Elder Chateau, but you will be able to get the tier 11 map that is adjacent to Chateau at this point. You'll then run one of those, and you'll get, you'll just run more of the Elder Chateau maps as well, and you'll get, tier 11 maps that way. Then you'll start using your Harbinger orbs on those tier 11s, and you'll start then being able to really quickly advance deep into red maps. It's my prediction that there will be players capable of whose Atlas progresses to a point so quickly that they can take down the Shaper within 4 to 5 hours of reaching maps. This will be extraordinarily fast compared to previous leagues. I'm open to being proven wrong on this, but I do expect that to see the first kill of the Shaper done within 9 to 11 hours of league start. I'm not sure how long it took the Shaper to go down in the Synthesis main league. I think it may have been closer to 18 or 24 hours. So that should give you a sense of just how much of an impact I think this is going to have. The other thing that's going to be huge is breaches while leveling is going to mean that there's going to be a lot more access to breach stones as soon as you get into maps. So when you get into maps, you're going to be able to very quickly go and use breach stones as if your character's powerful enough, of course, you're going to be able to use breach stones to explosively power level after that. So let's say that you hit Kitava at level 68, which will be higher than usual because there's so many monsters around. You can then go, if your character's strong enough, you may already have 2 Tull's breach stones, 2 Zophs, and one Esh lined up. Just go bang, 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 run them all, and suddenly you've gone from level 70 to 74. Or, alternately, if you're able to do it as a rotation with other players, where you might have accumulated 5 breach stones, but the other 5 players in your group have all accumulated them as 5 each as well, you could very quickly hit like level 83, 84, just by going bang, bang, bang and running all your breach stones almost as soon as you hit maps. So there's a lot of things that are going to have major impacts here on, not necessarily on the gameplay of rookie players or people that are just sort of playing this as their first serious league, but people who really dig deep into some of the various mechanics in the game will be able to twist around some of these and have a little bit of fun. Next up, there's all the prizes. As I mentioned in the beginner video, the random draws are a little bit of a bonus. I'm expecting that there will be at least 15,000 players that get eligible for the random draw for reaching level 95, and if I'm right on that, then you have a pretty slim chance. There's 1,075 prizes. If there's exactly 15,000 players, then that means that your chances of getting one of these are only of the order, 7 and a bit percent, 7 and 1/6%. If there's, instead of 15,000 players reaching it, if there are 30,000, which I also think might be possible, then suddenly you're looking at only 3% to win one of the top tier prizes. The other thing though that is happening, of course, is the Demigods Immortality race. This is very much exclusive to power gamers. There are only 190 prizes, and if you're the sort of person though that can and regularly does get to level 95 within 24 hours of league launch, then give some thought to going for one of these. And I should be clear, actually, there's 190 in each league. So there's 190 in the standard version, 190 in the hardcore version, 190 in standard solo self-found, and in hardcore solo self-found. Word going around is that players seem to expect hardcore and standard solo self-found to be the 2 softest leagues to compete in. Hardcore solo self-found attracts a lot of the very top streamers, and standard attracts a lot of the people who are, who like to trade and like to mess around, but can be very, very, very strong players like Havoc, for instance, I believe, generally has been, in recent leagues, has been playing in the softcore trade-enabled version of leagues. You know, he's one of the best players in the game. Mathel, I believe, generally tends to play... Oh, no, I think he plays hardcore solo self-found usually. I'd have to check on him. But in any case, I think if you're looking to go for one of these prizes, I would go for the softcore solo self-found or the hardcore trade-enabled as the options where I think you've got the most chance of winning. However, you will need to be an elite player to win one of these Demigods Immortalities. You can choose to go with a meta ascendancy, or you can choose to go a fringe ascendancy like Berserker or Raider and try to be the best of a small group, or you can just go for something you're familiar with. In any case, if you're going for this, good luck with it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to play much in this league, and I'm certainly not going to be able to attempt to contest a Demigod's Immortality, although I don't think I'm a good enough player to achieve that anyway. But this will be an exciting race to watch the end of. Anyways, that's all I've got for the moment, other than just to quickly go through the Q&As and say that the very important thing to note, you cannot respec your Ascendancy class. A lot of veteran players, if they're planning on leveling a Pathfinder, they will start as something else, a Deadeye or a Raider, and then respec into Pathfinder later once they own good flasks. This is not an option. You need to start as a Pathfinder and stay a Pathfinder the whole way. This is basically there so that players can't start out as a Gladiator. Sorry, not as a Gladiator. Gladiator's fine. So they can't start out as a Juggernaut and then respec into Berserker after reaching level 100. So you're not able to respec your Ascendancy class. Don't stuff up that choice. And, just make a decision, commit to it. I think most people that are watching the Veterans one will know before they start their character what their Ascendancy is, and their Ascendancy probably informs their skill choices. The last things to note are that League uniques don't drop from just by virtue of the flashback mechanics, so you can't get a Beyond exclusive unique just by virtue of being in a zone that has the Beyond modifier enabled. And lastly, this is not a Void League. There's been a bit of disappointment from a section of the player base on Reddit about this, but Void Leagues allow GGG to add a lot more zany stuff and have a really chaotic experience, but it's been found that the number of players that play in Void Leagues is a lot less. My general attitude is that I'm not superstitious enough to think that random number generation in a game is sort of has some sort of karma effect where you'll end up using up your random luck in one event and then that takes away from it in another. But even with even knowing that my odds of getting a Mirror of Kalandra drop are the same, the next day are the same, whether one just dropped for me in a Void race or not, I would feel that I would not want to see a Mirror of Kalandra drop for me at all in a Voided event. And the fear of a Mirror of Kalandra dropping for me in a Voided event would actually demotivate me from playing. I'm fine with having Exalts drop there. Losing an Exalt like that is not something that's an absolute punch in the guts or anything like that. But losing a mirror that way would be devastating. So for that reason, I prefer a non-voided league. And then there's the question of whether some of the really chaotic events they've done in the past, like having 20 exiles in each zone, then having 20 invasion bosses in each zone, whether that's something that's worth doing without voiding the league. That's another question entirely. I'd be open to an argument that you could have I think it was called Mayhem, the league that was voided, that had basically had these same modifiers, but each one was 10 times higher, and would only pick one in each zone, but it would just be absolute chaos everywhere. I'd be open to discussion about whether a Mayhem event could be run as a non-void event, but in any case, I think a lot of the community would prefer that it's not, and so for that reason, yeah, I think we're stuck with it as it is. In any case, that's all I got to say on the Synthesis Flashback event, the advanced player version. Definitely looking forward to putting together a video on Atlas strategies for this. Even though I'm not going to really be able to compete, I'll still do that. I also feel that I'm probably going to have a day off on Sunday the 12th, or Sunday the 19th, and I'm considering trying to run a community race. I need to check whether private leagues can be attached to the to this flashback event, and if they can, so if you can form a flashback event that has these rules potentially plus other private league rules, then I may set up a race of sorts where the goal will be to get to 125 Atlas bonus in the quickest time possible. I'm not going to be competitive in that format. I'll play it for fun and to compete against myself. But I got a feeling that if that were to take off in the community, the absolutely extraordinary races, the likes of Camel and Death and Doom, I think his name's Death and Doom, and a few other players that are just head and shoulders above everyone else, I have a feeling that they would be able to complete that task in about 9 hours, whereas for me, I'd be happy to get to 125 Atlas bonus within 15 hours of play, and so I'm so far off the mark that it's basically unbelievable. But anyways, that's all I've got for today. If you've got any questions, hit them up below.